Entitled parents don't care that their kids spit in other people's food at a restaurant. I waitressed at a Tex-Mex restaurant in college, and while I experienced a ton of entitled customers during that time, this one particular family always pops into my head from time to time. The restaurant I waitressed at offered chips and salsa free of charge, and the chips were kept in these giant open barrels by the soda stations, so the waiters could easily refill chips while they refill sodas. On the day of the incident, it was a weekday in the early afternoon. It was a slow shift, and I only had one other table at the time, an elderly couple who were easy to deal with. When a family of 3 walk in, a mom, dad, and their kid around maybe 6 years old. The mom and dad are clearly in some kind of fight, arms crossed, rolling their eyes, hostile energy all around. So I took their order and decided to give them as much space as possible. I was planning on just keeping to myself and giving them space. But then the kid gets up and is wandering around the mostly empty restaurant. I started to pay attention because he kept getting too close to the kitchen and serving area. It was pretty annoying watching him run loose, jump on booths, and crawl under tables, but his parents didn't seem to care in the least. They were too busy whisper fighting. Because the place was empty and the kid wasn't bothering any customers really, I didn't say anything. Even my manager saw it and just sighed and let it go, so I was ready to do the same. Until I watched this kid's gaze land on the chip barrel from across the room. I started walking over to the barrel to get ready to tell the kid that he can't reach in for chips, and if he needs more, I will take some to his table. I was prepared to stop little hands from getting on the chips. I was not prepared for what actually happened. The kid saw me about to intercept, and he ran to the barrel and spit into the chips, then smiled at me. I stopped dead in my tracks, jaw dropped. The entitled parents saw and heard everything, as the damn place was empty. They stopped fighting with each other for 5 seconds to scream at the kid to sit down before the lady gets mad, but didn't acknowledge the ruined barrel of spit chips. I went and told my boss what happened, and he was livid but let it go. He made a big to-do while tossing the barrel of fresh chips in the trash, but the parents were already back to fighting and didn't care. They left without tipping too. Entitled mom breaks my 3080/computer after I won't give her kid my PC. So I've been playing on a 1650 Super graphics card for a while, and wanted something better to bump my graphics up on Escape from Tarkov. My cousin, a 31-year-old entitled mom, and her 13-year-old son were over at my house visiting my parents. My GPU came in while they were over, so I rushed into the office to start putting it in my PC. Entitled kid comes in to watch me and talk. About halfway through, he asks why I have 2 of them, and I told him it's because I use 2 computers for my setup for streaming. He runs off and I get back to work. About 40 minutes later, after I get my 3080 in and swap my 1650 Super into my stream overlay PC, the entitled mom comes in and starts asking casual questions like, what am I doing? How does it help? And basic stuff. I explain the process, and how I use 2 computers to help with the strain of streaming and gaming. When entitled mom asked what would be a good computer for her kid's birthday, I told them I could help build a good PC for her kid on a budget for around $800 to $1,100 for a decent starter. When she said the words that hurt me, "Why don't you give my kid one of your computers? You don't need 2, and you haven't gotten him gifts for his birthday in a while." Side note, they live across the country. I told entitled mom I can't do that because my computers are worth over $3,000 with the upgrades and RGB I have in it. She started to say I was ungrateful for what I have, and I should give her kid my computer because we are family. I started to get heated because entitled mom started screaming about how all my life I've only had things handed to me and have never had to struggle for what I have. I retorted with, I work 2 full-time jobs to afford what I have and have been working on the computers for over a year. It's not my fault you got pregnant at 18 with the deadbeat who left you. Entitled mom then violently kicked my computer, shattering the glass and destroying the liquid cooling and the 3080, and almost kicked the second PC with the 1650 Super, but was promptly tackled by me. Entitled mom starts screaming that I assaulted her, while I had my father escort her and her kid off the premises, which they are never allowed back on. So court is on March 6th, and I will sue her for every penny the PC was worth. Plus, I will be trying to get each part immediately replaced, meaning she will have to buy a scalped 3080. The restraining order has been filed and served. My whole family has heard about it, and she has been barred from coming to all family gatherings located inside any homes. She has a history of being a C-word, so this came as no surprise. My entitled mom jumps to conclusions, thinks my girlfriend is pregnant, and has epic meltdown. This is a retro one from the late 90s in the days of prevalent landline telephones. I'm a male and I was 19 years old at the time. I was home with my parents over Christmas break from college. My 18-year-old girlfriend was a freshman and I was a sophomore. My home was a 3-hour drive from our college. Our school conducted sorority rush for freshman women who chose to participate at the end of Christmas break, so she had gone back a few days early to go through the process. My girlfriend and her friend group all targeted a single sorority where they wanted to land, and decided to pursue that when the time came. It was, to my immature 19-year-old mind, the best sorority. I had already gone into a fraternity a year earlier when I was a freshman. As was the case in those days, my girlfriend called me every night during the process to tell me how it had gone. I knew she would definitely call me on the 4th night because that is when they found out which sororities gave them bids, and then they had to choose. So she calls the house line and my mom picks up. My mom was unaware my girlfriend was going through rush. I wasn't trying to hide it, but it's just not something we had discussed as mother and son, for whatever reason. Anyhow, when my mom picks up, my girlfriend is clearly distraught and crying. My mom yells up for me to pick up the landline phone in my room, and I do. My girlfriend did not get into her preferred sorority. She received bids to all of the other, quote, good ones. I know this seems stupid, vapid, and privileged as an adult, but to an 18-year-old, this can seem like a terrible event. She was sobbing and looking for comfort. As we're talking, my entitled mom comes rushing into my room screaming, "She's crying! Did you get her pregnant? Is she pregnant?" She then proceeds to kick me and tell me I've ruined her reputation and the family's reputation. So I have a sobbing girlfriend on the phone and an entitled mom who was absolutely losing her crap, trying to literally kick my butt behind me. I hung up the phone, told my mom to get out, and that it was nothing as substantial as an unplanned pregnancy, and to get the hell out of my room, which she did in embarrassment. I then called my girlfriend back, consoled her, helped her plan which sorority she wanted, and turned my attention back to my mom. My mom was supremely embarrassed but defensive, saying she was just concerned about me. I told her not to jump to conclusions in the future, but she was exceptionally defensive of her stupid actions. This was my first lesson that my mom was not meant to be a parent to adult children, and ultimately led to me going low contact with her a few years later. Entitled mom demands a person with cancer gives up her seat. So me and my friend were on the bus the other day and had an entitled parent experience. For backstory, my friend has cancer and is currently beginning leukemia treatment. She looks healthy, but definitely isn't. And I have an invisible disability that makes standing up for extended periods of time impossible. And I certainly can't climb the stairs of the bus without risking injury. We were both sat in the reduced mobility reserved seats. We both look young, but most people nowadays understand that you can't always see disabilities, so we don't have any issues. The bottom deck of the bus was full of people, but my friend and I had gotten on before it filled up. Lucky us. Anyway, we were on the bus for half an hour, before on walks this mother, toddler in tow. My friend and I were in the middle of a lovely conversation about our plans for the day, when this woman walks up to us. She clears her throat and raises her eyebrow at us. I'm paraphrasing this next part because I have really bad memory. This isn't word for word, but I consulted my friend to make sure everything was accurate. Minor details have been left out. My friend says to entitled mom, "Can we help you?" "My son and I have been walking around the shop for an hour. We need to sit down." "I'm sorry, but we need these seats because..." She cuts us off. "You're both teenagers. Don't be lazy and give up your seat to a mother and her kid." "You don't understand. This isn't laziness. We really do need these seats." She points to her kid and says, "He needs this seat. So do I. So stand up." At this point, we both realize how futile fighting with her is. So we do the next best thing. We ignore her. We continue our conversation, which was the worst offense in her eyes. "You two pay attention to me. Didn't anyone teach you to respect your elders?" My friend and I stop talking, look at her, then at each other. My friend smiles sweetly and speaks to me. Hey, OP, how come you didn't bring your crutch anyway? I'm confused about the sudden change in conversation and I say, it was too much hassle. The bus stop is right outside the hospital, so I'm not walking too much. Entitled Mom looks at us both, mouth opening, as if she was about to speak again. But I cut her off, realizing what my friend was doing. And I say, so do you want me to come in with you to speak to your oncologist? That way I can help you tell him about how the chemotherapy is affecting you. It was at this point that Entitled Mom shuts up. She looks embarrassed and presses the bell for the bus to stop. They both leave the bus. That'll teach them for heckling people like that.